Chapter 2. It was Dad who first planted the idea that my savvy might be gold medal material, despite Mom's warnings that savvy talents are unpredictable. Dad had been building his hopes since we ran our first three-legged race. It hadn't mattered that I tripped us 10 feet from the finish line. We had big dreams. On the morning of my 13th birthday, I couldn't eat. My stomach threatened a sick, seesawing rebellion, and I didn't want to remember 13 forever, as the birthday I barfed up breakfast. My thoughts were a treadmill of hope and worry, as I pictured the trophies I'd put side by side with Dad's if things turned out the way we planned. Running, I thought. Let my savvy make me fast, fast, fast. Imagine it, Ledger, Dad said, letting the corner of the sports section dip as he gave me an encouraging thumbs up. By the end of today, you'll be able to run halfway across Indiana in the time it takes your pal Ryan to tie his shoelaces. Ryan had beaten me easily in the 800-meter run at school. Dad had taken me out for pizza after, but I knew he'd wished I'd won. Tom, Mom gave Dad a warning look. I pushed my scrambled eggs into shapes with my fork, cars and lightning bolts and frowning faces, destroying them again as I did my best to echo Dad's enthusiasm. Yeah, I said, tonight I'll run around the world at the speed of light and bring us back pizza from Italy. Or wontons from Mr. Lee's Panda Palace, said Fedora. Not from the Panda Palace, Fee. I rolled my eyes. That's right, Fee. That's right, Fedora. Mr. Lee's is just a mile from here, Dad explained. We're thinking bigger than that. We're thinking savvy big. Like your mom and your cousins. By the end of your brother's birthday, he'll be able to get us wontons from the other side of the globe. Dad winked at me, adding, You can bring Ryan Manning back some salt and pepper squid as a consolation prize. Ew, squid, Fedora made a face, then bounced in her chair, chanting, Noodles, noodles, bring me noodles. Do you hear that, Ledge? When you get to China, grab some noodles for your sister. With a grin, Dad folded his paper, ignoring the way Mom shook her head in disapproval. I wasn't sure who was more excited about my potential new savvy, Dad or Fedora. In my gut, I knew it wasn't me. Fedora and I both remembered when our cousin Samson Dumont turned 13 3 years before. It was impossible to forget the birthday party where our quiet shadow of a cousin vanished while blowing out his candles. Now my sister watched me like I might sprout eyeballs from my elbows or evaporate if she looked away. When Dad and I went outside to wait for my supersonic savvy to kick in, Fedora wouldn't stay behind. You look ridiculous, I told my sister as she followed us out the door. Having heard plenty of savvy birthday stories, and with endings more calamitous than Samson's vanishing act. Fee had dug out Dad's old football helmet from the basement. Better safe than sorry, she raised her chin, rapping her knuckles against the plastic, hiding her short brown hair. Hair cut just as neat and trim as mine, and Dad's. Just the way Mom liked. Helmet or no helmet, there wasn't much anyone could do to prepare for a savvy birthday, aside from taking basic precautions. No big parties, no friends, no sharp objects. I was surprised Mom had let me use a fork at breakfast. Allowing Josh or Ryan or Brody to come over had never been discussed. I hated that my buddies wouldn't see me turn awesome. I would have liked to see their faces. Each of my friends had his own gig. Ryan was magic on the sports field. Any sports field. And Josh was the ladies' man. Josh had even locked lips with Misty Arculeta during a field trip to the planetarium once, after giving her a necklace with a big silver M on it. Everyone had known about the kiss before the bus got back to school, because Big Mouth Brody spilled the beans like an all-state bean spiller. When we were Rugrats for Lake Fedora, I'd been best at Legos and erector sets. I'd even constructed a model of the Eiffel Tower out of toilet paper tubes that my third-grade art teacher thought was artistic genius. The Leaning Tower of Pisa, Lizard, she said. How beautiful. So much for genius. It didn't matter. By the time my first pair of running shoes were broken in, my Lego pieces were gathering dust, and I was sitting in the back of the art room, keeping my creations to myself. I stopped daydreaming about building things and started focusing on the pavement. 5 years and 6 shoe sizes later, I ran around the block, under the midday sun. Chasing my 13th birthday savvy speed. Dad had made Fee official timekeeper, giving her a mechanical stopwatch and a whistle. Bricka brecka firecracker, sis boomba, ledger kale, rah rah rah. Fee shouted her favorite Super Rabbit cartoon cheer every time I finished a lap, hitting the reset button on Dad's watch. Is anything happening, Ledger? She asked every time. Feel any different? No, I replied, working to catch my breath after sprinting full speed. Full, normal, boring speed. How about now, Ledge? No. Now? No! How about now? No! I yelled at Fee, rounding the block again. My frustration and temper, the only things gaining momentum. On my 10th lap, Fee hit the stopwatch, and I stumbled, my toe catching on the lip of the sidewalk, forced up by the tree roots. As if my own family tree were reaching up to trip me. Thrown off balance, I fell, skinning my knees, my elbows, and my pride, while a limb-tingling sensation crawled beneath my skin, like I'd landed on an anthill. You okay, Whoa! I barely registered Dad's voice. Before he could finish his question, the stopwatch in Fedora's hand blew apart. Whiz! Bang! The mainspring zinging me in the backside, and the rest of the parts flying like shrapnel. Dad ducked, and Fedora leaped back with a merry shriek. I covered my head to avoid getting razor-thin gears lodged in my brain pan. Dad's stopwatch was my first savvy casualty. Fedora dashed home, shouting, Mom! Mom! Wait till you see what Ledge can do! He ran around the block 10 times in Zippo! Then bang zoom! Something savvy happened, and now he can bust things up! Helmet bobbing, my sister palmed the air in a comical 3-punch combination, repeating, Bust things up! As she shadowboxed around the house. Do it again, Ledge, she demanded. Break something bigger this time. Go on, show Mom. Try! I didn't try. One look at my knees, and Mom went to get the Band-Aids, while I watched Dad sort through the mishmash of pieces he'd picked up off the sidewalk. The stopwatch's metal casing hung over his index finger, stretched out and bent. Looking at it made me queasy. I knew Dad would have liked to believe that the watch broke because I was too fast for it. He would have been proud if my cuts and scrapes were trophies won through a triumph of sudden super speed, rather than tokens of my everyday clumsiness. But there had been no evidence that I'd become a single inch, or a meter, or a mile per hour faster. When nothing else happened on my birthday, but cake and presents and lights out at 10, nobody knew what to think. Mom and Dad debated whether I'd gotten a savvy at all. Dad, I stammered, as he came to say goodnight. I'd already climbed into bed and pulled the sheets over my head, hiding from the last hours of my lousy, bungled birthday. Don't sweat it, Ledge. Dad's quick reply surprised me. So it turns out you're an everyday kale man like your dad. So what? It's not like you're defective. We can still run our half marathon the way we planned. Only now, you won't have to slow down to let your old man catch up. He winked, then glanced around my room, his gaze moving across long-forgotten art projects and model cars. Then he turned off the overhead light and wished me one last happy birthday before pulling the door closed behind him. Fedora had been wrong, I told myself. I didn't break stuff. That kind of savvy would be bad news a dozen ways to Sunday. It would ruin my plans to hit the new wild water coaster with Josh, Ryan, and Brody. I tried to imagine what would happen if I broke the longest water coaster in the world. The thought sent a prickling shiver down my spine. My bed frame shivered with me. I reached to switch off my bedside lamp, but it rocked. But it rocked and shuddered into a battery of brass and sockets before I even touched it. The painting my Aunt Jenny had sent me for my birthday fell from my bedroom wall with a thwomp in the sudden darkness. But I didn't need light to remember what it looked like. Aunt Jenny had painted a boat on a stormy ocean, a boy on the deck, a boy who looked an awful lot like me, only braver. Not defective, not defective, I'm not defective, I chanted, the words to myself until I fell asleep, praying to God that they were true. After my knucklehead demolition in Sundance 10 days later, I was sweating bullets. Riding in the suffocating van, I closed my eyes and hunched my shoulders, trying to think of nothing, trying to ignore the feeling of my savvy building steam again, as I fought to forget my most recent awful memories. The smell of spilled motor oil, a sound like 1,000 steel cans hitting asphalt, the glint of chrome and metal under the noonday sun. You okay back there, Ledge? Dad's voice brought me back. I opened my eyes, meeting his look of concern in the rearview mirror. The mirror yawed and tilted, shook, then fell. Dad caught it easy. I clenched my fists. My savvy was as useless as a pogo stick in quicksand. I wasn't the only one who could see that. I was sinking. It's getting worse, Dinah, Dad said, in an undertone, as he handed the mirror to my mom. I'm beginning to think that this trip might have been a bad idea. We're almost there, Tom, Mom answered, her own tone less than reassuring. She turned to me and forced a smile. Just relax, Ledger, she said. You can control things a little longer. You mean you can control things a little longer, I muttered, too quiet for Mom to hear. As my fists uncurled and my muscles loosened, I wondered how long this latest round of enforced relaxation would last. The closer we got to Uncle Ache's ranch, the more I hoped my parents... Oops, I dropped the phone. Okay. The closer we got to Uncle Ache's ranch, the more I hoped my parents weren't both thinking the same thing, that it might be safer for everyone if they simply left me on the side of the road. Taking the second exit to the right, and continuing straight on till nowhere, we reached Uncle Autry's ranch. I was the first to the back of the van to grab my bag, but when the hatch swung open and two green eyes met my gray ones, I almost sent the rear door into orbit. Sarah Jane was sitting in the middle of my family's luggage.